Hello and welcome to Plan Your Professional Development. I'm Andy King.
And I'm Eric Powell.
We're coming to you from AmeriCorps Vista headquarters in Washington, D.C. We're assisted today by Andy Clark and Scott Weinrobe from Education Northwest. On our production team, you'll see all of us in the chat and Q&A to assist you during the session.
Thank you very much to all of you who have been posting to the chat question about the goal you hope to accomplish during your year of service. It's great to see such positive and professional goals, such as wanting to build a large group of volunteers, working with local residents, building community development goals, but also to recognize that you are commenting on ways that you want to grow as well as fulfill the duties of your VAD. You may have joined VISTA to become involved in anti-poverty causes or to learn about nonprofit management. Perhaps you saw an opportunity to become a better public speaker or to help a specific community that is meaningful to you.
This session shows you how to make the most of your year of service so that while you're building capacity in the community, you're also building your own capacity. The VISTA program offers a range of resources to support your professional development, so we want to let you know what's available. In this session, we'll help you plan for your professional development and point you to some resources to help make it happen. During your pre-service orientation, you learned some of the basics of understanding your VISTA assignment description, identifying skills that you'll need to accomplish your VAD, and navigating the VISTA campus. Now comes the fun part. It's time to take your initial thoughts and turn them into a plan of action.
To get started, let's first get a sense of who is on the session today. This webinar includes vistas from several different pre-service orientations. We want to take a moment to see where everyone is serving and give you a sense of others with whom you can connect. If you have seen this before, you know what to do. For those who have not, in the upper left corner of the screen is an icon that looks like a pencil. Click on that to see the annotation tools on the left side of your screen. Then click on the arrow tool, as you see people doing now, and click on the map to point to where you are serving as a VISTA. You may want to make the slide full screen, and you can do this by clicking on the double arrows in the top right area of the screen so you can more easily see where others are located. And so far it looks like we have a wide range of vistas all across the country. One person in Alaska, quite a few serving in, it looks like, the Northeast, near Massachusetts and New York. Andy, do you see any others?
Yeah, we've got a couple folks in Hawaii, and now it's 2 in Alaska. Pacific Northwest is well represented all the way down to Florida. Yeah, so we've got folks from all over, and of course we have several different pre-service orientation groups represented here, so we do have people from all over the place.
Definitely. And we know that whether you are geographically close to other vistas or not, you should know that you are not alone, not just from the map that you can see in front of you, but also from your PSO. You know that we have several vistas serving in all 50 states and U.S. territories who are a resource for you. And later in the session, we'll show you how you can find other vistas by using the VISTA map and other features on the VISTA campus. And by the way, if you did switch your slide view to full screen, you probably want to switch back so you can participate in other activities that will be coming up in the presentation. So here's our agenda for today. We will start by dividing into the 4 steps to action, which can help you plan and reach your professional development goals. Then we will discuss solid next steps and then go over to the question and answer portion of the webinar. Throughout today's presentation, we will have opportunities for you to share your thoughts and comments. And if this works for everyone, I'll ask Andy to start us off.
All right, thanks, Eric. So what you see on the screen are the 4 steps to action, and these were developed with input from VISTA members who shared tips about what helped them to be successful during their service. So we'll go through them one by one. The first step is to get settled. So you've been a VISTA for just a few weeks, and you're hopefully becoming accustomed to your new surroundings, maybe a new workplace, perhaps a different income level. So we're going to use another feature of WebEx, and that's the raise hand feature. It's located at the bottom of the participant panel. So this is in the upper right corner of your screen. You'll see the participants. Right at the bottom of that, you'll see a little hand icon. So I'm going to ask you a question. And if you know the answer, I want you to click raise hand so we'll have a sense of how many of you know the answer. All right, ready for the question? How many sick days and how many personal days off do you get as a VISTA? So if you know the answer, click raise hand, and we will see how many of you know the answer. I see hands going up by the dozens, by the scores. All right, so hopefully, oh yeah, okay, now I get it. Most all of you have your hands up now. And if you're, on your smartphone, you may not be able to do that, which we understand. So that's great. Seems like the vast majority of you know the answer. And if you don't, or if you weren't sure, I just want to point out that you're going to want to look at the VISTA Member Handbook. It's one of the resources we'll take a look at today. All right, so that's it. That was just our quick little interactive thing there. You can take your hands down now.
And as Andy just mentioned, the VISTA Member Handbook is one of the key first steps to getting settled as a VISTA member. It does answer important questions such as how many personal days you get and many other administrative and policy questions and answers. The handbook is located on the VISTA campus in the section called Life as a VISTA. Again, it lists the policies of the VISTA program and outlines the process for requesting assistance if needed. You can also reach out to your fellow VISTAs through the discussion forum on the VISTA campus. Scan the discussion threads already there for insight other VISTAs have shared, and if you don't see what you're looking for, feel free to post your own question, or you can offer advice to others. Contact the VISTA Member Support Unit, also known as the VMSU, with questions about your living allowance, benefits, or the Education Award, and contact your Corporation for National and Community Service state office for support regarding emergencies, supervisor issues, or VISTA policy. Another dimension of getting settled is getting settled in your organization. It's important to feel comfortable in your organization where you'll be spending most of your time as a VISTA member. If you have not done so already, make sure to schedule a regular check-in meeting with your supervisor because it's a key element to your success. It'll also help you reach your VISTA goals and ensure that your project is sustainable. Next, take some time to explore what has been done before. Dive into some documents that lay the foundation for your organization, including its strategic plan, mission, and vision. If there have been VISTAs at your site before you, take a minute to review their accomplishments through past quarterly reports, which you can get from your supervisor. Finally, take some time to get to know your colleagues. Meet with people in various departments to learn about their roles and how you might work together. These contacts are also likely to have connections in the community that could be very helpful to you.
Okay, so since we're on a webinar and we can't see each other, let's take advantage of one of the other features that's available to us, and that is the polling feature. And again, if you're on a mobile device, you probably won't be able to participate. We apologize for that. So we'd like to hear from you again. This time, you see the poll on the right side of the screen. It's about how often you meet with your supervisor. And here we're talking about a formal meeting, meaning that both of you have actually scheduled the time, and you're having a meeting to discuss various things. So it's not like, oh, I ran into a supervisor in the hallway, but it's, a more intentional thing. All right, so take a moment, answer the question, how frequently do you formally meet with your supervisor? Is it multiple times a week, once a week, about once every 2 weeks, once a month, or I haven't yet set up formal meetings with my supervisor? So once you've selected your answer there, be sure to click the Submit button at the bottom so that your answer will be recorded. And we've got a few seconds before that poll ends, and then once it does, we will see the results. So we know that schedules are busy with meetings, site visits, other activities, and more, and it can be a challenge to sit down and have an actual meeting. However, one of the biggest elements to VISTA member success, both personally and professionally, is good supervision and good member-supervisor relationship. We want you to have the adequate support that you need as you continue to grow and learn. And we also want you to do your part to ensure that your supervisor and your organization know about what it is you're accomplishing and the challenges that you are facing. So thank you, Andy, for tabulating the poll here. Looks like the biggest number of you who responded are meeting with your supervisor once a week, and that is a great practice. It's certainly one that we would recommend. A good number of you, 25 of you, are meeting more often than that, which is great, especially since you're just getting started. You know, you may find later on in your service term that will vary. And then there's still a handful of you who haven't yet set up a formal meeting. So I'll take this one reminder to encourage you to do that if that's possible. All right, so thank you very much for participating in the poll. You'll see the chat and the Q&A have closed. If you want, you can reopen those. All right, so while we're talking about supervisors, let's chat for a bit about what to do if your supervisor isn't providing the kind of support that you need. So there may be times when a situation with a supervisor is too challenging for you to manage on your own. For example, if you feel your supervisor is treating you unfairly or maybe even harassing you, if your supervisor isn't available and you don't know when you'll see your supervisor again, or maybe you have so many supervisors that you can't get any decisions made on your project. So if you have a challenge like that that's preventing you from having a successful VISTA service experience, there are some resources that you can turn to. So first of all, if your project has a VISTA leader, you can approach your leader for general advice, problem solving, and you can ask for help with difficult conversations. Next up, your CNCS state office, that is the local or the statewide office for the Corporation for National and Community Service. They're our regional offices around the country. They can assist with any issues that you might have relating to how your VISTA project is being managed, its ability to attain its goals, or any issue that can't be resolved by your supervisor. Your state office can also intervene if you're not getting supervision or if the things that you're being asked to do are really different from what's listed in your VISTA assignment. Or if you find that your tasks, the things that you're working on, aren't capacity building, or you find you're replacing a staff member of the organization, or if you encounter any situation like harassment or discrimination. Again, your state office would be the place to turn if you experience any of those situations. And of course, you know, you can also turn to other VISTA members, either those who are serving at your project site or VISTAs across the country, to get their advice, input, and support. We'll give a little bit more on that when we get to step 4. I want to point out we have a webinar that digs deep into supervisor issues and how you might approach them. The webinar is called Managing Up, Navigating the VISTA Supervisor Relationship, and we have an on-demand version of it available on the webinars page of the VISTA campus. Okay, so that's it for step 1, get settled.
Once you've settled in and identified areas for professional growth, it's time to turn your VAD into action and reflect on its activities and goals. Having a well-structured work plan helps you jump into your service and track your progress. So how does one begin to create this plan? First, meet with your supervisor to review your VISTA assignment description and develop measurable milestones and deliverables. Take notes and write down questions you have about your VAD, as well as any clarifications needed so that you understand your assignments. Remember that your goal as a VISTA is to make your work sustainable in the organization and in the community. Keep your VAD handy so that you can refer back to it periodically to track your progress. Since you began your service, you and your supervisor have likely come up with additional activities to support the achievement of your objectives and to capitalize on your unique strengths so that your VAD may be refined somewhat from the original version. Your supervisor is the person to contact if you have any questions about the VAD, its time frame, and other aspects of your scheduled assignment. Be sure to take ownership of your VAD and take the time to reflect on what is being asked of you. Focus on trying to discover for yourself how your own personal goals and ideas are in alignment with your VAD. The more passionate and committed you are to your service activities, the easier it will be for you to excel.
So while you're working in the community, it could be easy to forget to track all of the great work that you're doing. You won't know how much progress you're making unless you track your work and keep good records. So the Vista Impact Reporting Tool is a tool. It's a device that allows you to track your activities using your smartphone, tablet, or computer. By keeping a log of your activities and your successes, it'll not only help you and your supervisor when reports are due, but it'll also help you build a clear record of your achievements that you can reference after you finish your term of VISTA service. The Vista Impact Reporting tool is available only through the Vista campus. We have an on-demand webinar that shows you how to use it, and you'll find it on the campus under Life as a Vista or by following the link that that Andy has already pasted there in the chat. We're going to take a look at the reporting tool a little bit later on.
We want to take a second to hear from you again. Now that you've been at your project for at least a couple of weeks, has anything popped up that makes you nervous about your VISTA assignment description? Maybe you are worried about being asked to do something that is beyond your current skill set, or maybe the tasks outlined seem too big. Is there anything that we could provide that would alleviate this nervousness? On the flip side of that, we also want to know what you are excited about in your VAD. Is there anything specific that you are working on or are gearing up to work on that you are particularly passionate about? We always love hearing about the wonderful work you are doing, so please let us know. So again, the two questions are you nervous about anything in your VAD, and what are you most excited to work on? You can post these in the chat, and we'll give you a few minutes to share your ideas. And I see a couple of them coming in. I see one person is nervous that I will not be able to reach my goals, but is excited for volunteer recruitment and management. That's great. And I'll quickly comment that around the goals, certainly write down the goals if you haven't and pass those along to your supervisor because they also may be able to help you in terms of your personal and professional goals.
Yeah, we've got a few other concerns that typically come up. One that's really common is that VISTAs are asked to do things that they haven't done before. They're kind of moving into new territory, uncharted, so natural to feel some apprehension about that. I see several folks mentioning capacity building as one of their tasks and feeling nervous about that. It's big, it's nebulous, it's hard to see and to know when it's happening and when it's not. And let's see, if what are you all excited about?
Lots of information coming in. Trying to just scroll through them really quickly to get a few more responses. I see someone is excited about getting to know their community and also excited about exploring more of what the VAD means beyond what it says, but also really getting into the work in the first month or two of service. And then lastly, I see excited to apply best practices into a new personal space, which is wonderful when you develop and see new practices and want to try to implement them into the community and the organization.
Great. Yeah, well, definitely those of you who were brave enough to share your nervousness or your anxieties, thank you for that. Hopefully you'll see that you're not alone and you're in good company with it, and it's perfectly natural to have that kind of response early on. And we hope we'll be able to share with you at least a few resources that can you know, help you along the way in gaining those skills and working on it. And for those of you who shared your excitement, I'm always really happy and eager to see that. It reminds me of all the great things that VISTAs do and all the energy and talent and and excitement that you bring with you to the program. So thank you all for that. All right, so we're going to move on to step 3, and step 3 is make time to learn. So this session's all about professional development, and this is really where we want your attention to be. So with the action steps you've identified, maybe the things that you said that you're nervous about doing, you're not quite sure how to do, now is the time to determine ways that you can improve your skills that relate to your VISTA assignment. It's likely that your VAD includes things that you've never done before, which is okay. It'll give you an opportunity to learn something new. So I encourage you to register for and attend a VISTA webinar to improve your knowledge. We'll show you some examples of the many webinars that we offer in just a second. Next, I would encourage you to continue to search the VISTA campus to find resources, tutorials, worksheets, and other materials there that relate to what it is that you're going to be doing as a VISTA member. We've got the VISTA campus website, and of course there are other websites, and we'll show you some of those in a little bit. The VISTA program also offers 2 10-week online courses that you can take for college credit if you like. Before you sign up for them, be sure to consult your supervisor and plan your workload accordingly before you apply. They're offered 3 times a year, so watch your email inbox for notice of the next enrollment period. Your supervisor could also be a great resource. He or she may have recommendations for additional training that you could take that relate to your VISTA assignment. Now let's take a look at some of the webinars that we offer in the VISTA program. As mentioned, these webinars are a great way to learn about some service-related topics. You've heard us mention these, so we want to make you aware of some of the topics that we offer. There's a whole list of them there on the screen. And these topic ideas come from input that we get from VISTA members. And we have 2 different series that we put together. One is called Life as a VISTA, and it includes topics related to the challenges and benefits of serving as a VISTA member. The other is called The Work, and of course those topics are related to your VISTA assignment and your project activities. So in the category Life as a VISTA, we've got these sessions that are listed on the screen. I'll highlight just a couple. The first one listed there, Managing Student Loans. Always a popular one. We know that many VISTAs have student loans, and the Education Award is a great resource for many VISTAs, and it's very flexible. There are a lot of ways that it can be used, but it's also complicated to understand all the ways it can be used. So we've got this webinar about student loans. It looks at the Ed Award and a bunch of other types of approaches that you can use. We also have some more general kinds of sessions like time management. So if you're struggling around what to do when you've got a lot to get done and not much time, maybe planning can help you with that. So those are a few things in the Life as a VISTA series. Now I'm going to ask Eric to highlight some from the Work series.
And as Andy said, we have lots of webinars in the Work series. I'll highlight just a couple of them that might pique your interest. So looking at item number 3, high impact volunteer recruitment, almost all VISTAs have some volunteer recruitment as part of their VAD. So this helps you to look at how to recruit the best volunteers and how to find out where the best places to recruit volunteers from are located. We also, in the 5th bullet down, have information on how to create an online fundraising strategy. As this world goes more and more electronic and virtual, this webinar helps you to look at how do you work with your project to raise money online, which is not the same as perhaps it used to be when it was all in person. And then finally, I'll point you, because it relates directly to this webinar and to you as a person, is a final bullet, building a professional network for service and career. As we said earlier, we want you to develop personally and professionally. So this webinar is kind of like a supplement in addition to this planning your professional development webinar. It's really going into a little bit more depth about what you would need to develop partnerships, interact with people, and engage the community in terms of leveraging networks for professional success and social impact during and after your year of service. And just so you know, we do typically offer one topic from each of these series, the life and the work, every month. So there's about 24 possible live webinars you could attend as a VISTA in addition to the on-demand recorded webinars. And then to access the live and on-demand webinars on the VISTA campus, obviously you'd log in and click on the Connect and Learn tab, and then click on Webinars. We will also be sending you email notices that you'll know what's coming up. Don't forget to register for the webinar in advance and add it to your calendar so you will not end up missing it.
All right, so we've talked about the VISTA campus, and of course it's always a good place to start to begin building your knowledge. But there are many other free and reputable resources available to help you in your learning pathway. We're going to mention some examples here that we think might be helpful and that other VISTAs have cited, but I have to point out that because we mention them here, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're endorsed by the VISTA program or by the Corporation for National and Community Service. All right, so even with all the online resources available today, brick-and-mortar public libraries are still really valuable learning sites. Many local libraries have access to online databases and grant writing resources. All you need is a library card. The other benefit there is they have librarians who are well-trained and well-versed in all kinds of research, as well as some of the latest digital trends and resources. In addition to that, many libraries offer free access to things like audiobooks, ebooks, movies, music, and more. So whether it's for service or your own life, a library can be a great resource. And not to mention, libraries often have a community bulletin board that you can use to post notices for volunteers and community meetings, and you might even find a recreational or social opportunity there for yourself. So I want to look at a few online opportunities there. Eric, you want to kick us off with the next one?
Sure. The U.S. Census Bureau, which some of you might be familiar with, does offer free webinars on a range of topics related to using census data to better understand a community. Whether it's looking at education and income level in various neighborhoods, or understanding who's living in Indian country, these webinars offer valuable insights and allow you to conduct your own research based on your interests.
You can also carefully turn to the internet for free resources. Sites like Coursera, Khan Academy, and Allison provide free online courses from sometimes Ivy League institutions on a wide range of topics. More specific to the nonprofit world are sites like the Free Management Library and the Alliance for Nonprofit Management, which offer free and inexpensive articles, white papers, reports, and other resources on a range of topics related to nonprofit work.
Take a look at your organization's professional affiliations and memberships to see if any of them can give you access to learning opportunities. Membership in the Foundation Center, or LexisNexis, provides access to tremendous resources for research and grant opportunities. Organizations such as Volunteer Match and the Association of Fundraising Professionals, including their local chapters, provide professional development opportunities through webinars and additional training.
You might also take advantage of some of the new networks that your VISTA position will expose you to. A great place to start is with YPN, or a Young Professionals Network, because they often offer networking, professional development, and volunteer opportunities. There's even a Young Nonprofit Professionals Network. You can check out ynpn.org to find a local chapter. And if there's not a chapter near you, you might consider starting one.
Professional organizations are another great resource available to help meet your learning goals. In addition to connecting you to others in your field, they can offer significant professional development opportunities for you. Some organizations have entire sections of their website dedicated to professional development and career advancement. While not all of the events and resources are free, it never hurts to see what's happening in your area and ask your supervisor if you might be able to attend.
Those of you with responsibilities in the area of resource development should check out the Association of Fundraising Professionals website and explore their professional development section. It includes everything from conferences and leadership training to executive institutes and certification programs.
Those visitors who are working with volunteers are strongly encouraged to look at the Council for Certification in Volunteer Administration. Review the certificate requirements and see if it sounds like something you might want to do later in your career. Even if you will not complete the certificate now, you can still glean great resources from their website related to volunteer engagement. And don't forget about Points of Light and Energize Incorporated. Energize Incorporated has tools directly related to career advancement within the volunteer management field.
And for those of you who are in communications and marketing, the Public Relations Society of America, or PRSA, understands that nonprofits face unique challenges. And their website, which you can see on the screen, offers seminars, newsletters, and other resources devoted to help professionals develop public relations and management skills that are directly related to the nonprofit and association environment.
If your VISTA service includes developing a training program or education series, check out the Association for Talent Development, also known as ATD. You'll be able to subscribe to newsletters, watch webinars, and of course follow and learn from leaders in the field of training and curriculum development.
And if any of you are serving at a NeighborWorks organization, and even if you're not, I want to point out that NeighborWorks offers many training opportunities that may be of interest. They have training on everything from nonprofit leadership skills to general professional development, community assessment, as well as supporting minority populations, just to name a few. And you can see the website there for NeighborWorks on the screen.
Finally, do not overlook local development opportunities such as those offered by a volunteer center, United Way, Chamber of Commerce, Toastmasters, Urban League, or national organizations that might have local branches in your community. Chamber organizations often host professional mixers as well as events directed towards emerging community professionals, and they're great to go to. While there might be a fee for many of the resources we mentioned, don't be afraid to ask your supervisor if you could pick one resource or training to pursue. There's also a chance that scholarships might be offered through the associations or training institutes, and it never hurts to apply.
So now it's your turn to share professional development resources that you would recommend to your fellow VISTAs. Again, we invite you to use the chat panel to post your suggestions. So what are the resources that you have used personally for professional development? Have you found a free course or an online resource that was especially helpful? Is there perhaps an affinity group or a professional organization you think resonates especially well with your VISTA service? And what was that one TED Talk you saw that you think everyone should watch? So we've got some responses coming in now. Let's see, Seth talks about FEMA. They have trainings available on their website. So we've got edX. We mentioned TEDx. edX has tons of free self-paced courses. Your local alumni association. It's a great way to network. Of course, a lot of universities have online programs, extension programs. We've got Harvard listed there, extension. The forums on the VISTA campus. Thank you, Susan, for that recommendation. Carla talks about free online courses that she can access through her local library. Terrific. So some of you are involved in the YNPN. Eric, what were you going to note?
I was just going to say, I see Amy actually lists something that we don't hear very often but can be very useful, suggesting networking through your local city council. Sometimes, in addition to the Chamber of Commerce, check with your city council or local area to see what else is available. And then, of course, as Andy said, online courses through your local library and creating or joining a club at a university. Sometimes that's allowed, and you can get a lot of resources from things going on at universities.
Terrific. Yeah, there are a number of things associated with universities here that are great suggestions. So, all right, so we see your responses are still coming in. We'll allow you to keep doing that and encourage you to continue looking because your colleagues will have some great resources available there. All right, so and a few of you mentioned Allison.com and Coursera. So if you're not familiar, Allison has courses in things like community development, fundraising, and they have some other topics that are relevant to nonprofit work. Coursera is more general, things like writing skills, project management, and communications. So depending on what it is you need, you might find what you're looking for there. And lynda.com as well. They have some, again, free online courses that you can take. So great suggestions. Thank you so much. Please continue to share and look to see what your colleagues are posting.
And this is great, as this takes us to our final step, step 4, get connected, which you are already doing now in this webinar and beyond. As you know, you're already part of the great Vista family and Vista legacy, and some of you have already said you may not have other Vistas at your site, but you can always connect to the Vista campus. Fill out your project area and interest in your Vista campus user profile, and be sure to add a photo so that you can further connect with other Vistas. You can also interact with other Vistas on the Vista forums by posting a question or a suggestion. Also, connect with the Vista program through social media such as Facebook and Twitter. If you haven't done so already, identify yourself as an AmeriCorps Vista member on LinkedIn and connect to the Vista groups available on that website. And if you know of or if you find out that there are other Vistas in your area, arrange a meetup or a get-together and come face-to-face to share what you are all doing and learning. You may be able to find Vistas in your area along with alumni and leaders by using the Vista map. Think about reaching out to alumni because they often know the area and are happy to help current Vistas. Also, once you know something about the community, which you probably have already started to do in your first couple weeks of service, try to get out there and become familiar with it firsthand. Investigate other aspects of the community and fully integrate yourself into your surroundings. In a community, as you probably know, face-to-face interaction is vital for establishing trust. Attend social functions such as community festivals, networking events, neighborhood meetings, open houses, or fundraisers, wearing your Vista polo shirt or lapel pin. Just being seen in the community and being supportive of other events in the community makes people want to be more invested in your work and find out what Vista is all about. Begin scheduling meetings with community leaders that you've met at these events.
And you know, a slightly different approach is to have someone else introduce you to the community. You might ask your supervisor to connect you with someone who would be willing to serve as your community ambassador to help you connect with the community. It's particularly helpful if you've moved to serve with Vista and you're in unfamiliar surroundings. This person who's going to be your ambassador should be someone who's established in the community, a member of the community, who's willing to give you some background on the region so that you can approach your Vista service in a more meaningful way, and is also someone who can introduce you to key leaders in the community. An ambassador can certainly open doors for you, but if you don't have one, don't let that stop you from exploring and learning about the community.
And as we mentioned earlier, you can also use online resources to connect with people in your community. LinkedIn is a great resource for making connections, so spend some time scouring your current contacts because there might be someone who is only 1 or 2 connections away from you. You also probably already join or participate in various networks, which can be very useful. A regional or local college alumni group could offer programs or have a means of connecting you to other alumni in the area.
And as you're out there in the community and connecting with people, make sure to identify yourself as a Vista by putting the Vista logo on your business card and your email signature and on your organization's website and your social media platforms, brochures, other communications, and be sure to wear that Vista polo shirt with pride. In the web links that we're pasting in the chat, you can find places to download Vista logos if you don't have access to them already. There are other publications that you can order for free. And if you like, you can order gear that you can use to decorate your office and represent Vista in the field.
During your pre-service orientation, PSO, you developed your minute message, a short speech about your organization and your role as a Vista. Make sure to rehearse it often so that it comes easily, because you'll be needing it in the community and when people ask what Vista is. There are plenty of resources on the Vista campus that can teach you about creating these messages. Also, when you are out and about, don't forget to take pictures and share them through social media, also on your sponsor's website and through press releases. You truly never know when Vista may share or retweet your photo or service story.
Yeah, and I should mention, I should have said at the top of the hour, this is AmeriCorps Week, and so we've certainly been busy all week on social media, sharing stories about what Vista members are doing and other AmeriCorps members are doing and accomplishing out there in the field. All right, so to recap, here are your 4 steps to maximize your effectiveness. First, get settled into your life as a Vista. Get to know the program, your site, and your community. Secondly, reflect on your VAD to develop learning goals and then hold yourself accountable for reaching them. Third, take time to learn and develop new skills using resources on the Vista campus and those beyond, and we mentioned a lot of them so far today, as well as through professional development opportunities at your service site. And finally, get connected and stay connected with other Vistas, alumni, and others in the community who can support your success.
You heard about 3 features on the Vista campus that will help you stay connected and informed. One is the Vista Campus Benefits page, second is your learning plan, and third is your learning connections. Now, we'll hear from Scott Weinrobe, who's going to show you how to access these Vista Campus features, along with some others that we mentioned during this presentation. Scott, take it away.
Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. And hi, everyone. It's really nice to be with you today, and I'm glad to have the chance to talk with you a little bit about the Vista campus. So let me start by saying that, we've designed the campus in a way where we hope you'll find it really easy to navigate. What you're looking at now on screen is obviously the Vista homepage, and depending on whether you're visiting the site or logged in, you'll see a little bit different homepage, but it has some kind of standard elements to help you quickly get where you want to go on the site. And then throughout the site, you'll find the drop-down menus to navigate to different topics. The areas I'm going to talk about most today are the Life as a Vista and Work sections, because I think those will have the resources that will be especially relevant to you during your year-end service. So let me start with a page that I think you'll all be familiar with from your pre-service coursework, and that's the Benefits page or the Benefits Hub. This page on the campus really is meant to be kind of a one-stop shop for information on all of your benefits, from the living allowance to health care to career opportunities, professional development, and so on. And it's also links to additional resources where after you get an overview, you can do a deeper dive. So as you scroll down the page, you'll see boxes for each of the benefits. If you want to learn more about the living allowance after reading the overview, just click on the Resources tab, and there's lots more to explore. The next page I wanted to mention was also mentioned earlier, and that's the Vista Impact Reporting Tool. So this is accessible, as you saw, also through the Life as a Vista menu. As mentioned earlier, it's even though you might see it referred to in some places as an app, it's really a mobile-friendly website that will work on any web-enabled device, whether it's a phone, tablet, or the web browser on your computer. It's designed to be a responsive website, so if you're on a phone, it should scale really nicely to fit on the display of your phone. When you click this link here to go to the Impact site, you'll be asked to log in, but you don't need to create a separate login for the Impact site. It just uses the same username and password as your campus username and password. So another feature of the site that I hope you'll explore is the learning plan. When you first created an account on the Vista campus, you received some emails with information about your required training and suggested training. You can find all of that through the learning plan. And to access that, just click the little drop-down menu underneath your name. Click on Learning Plan. And then you'll see 3 different categories. Required learning, that's the starting Vista page that had all of your required pre-service coursework. There's also suggested learning, and some of that is automatically suggested by the system when you create an account as a Vista. Your Learning Connections will also be able to suggest learning for you, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. And then finally, there's the favorite content column where you can bookmark resources that you find as you're exploring the campus to easily come back to them later. So let me say a little bit about adding something to your learning plan if you want to bookmark something to come back to it later on. And here let me also kind of show you a little bit about how the search engine works on the campus, because we've really designed it to be robust and give you lots of different ways to filter down to the resources you're looking for. So here, without the French accent, I typed in resume. Even though it looks like resume, it will kind of return anything that's related to resumes. I've heard there's a really good recorded webinar on translating Vista service to your resume and career, so I just searched for it, and then I filtered it down to recorded webinars. I'm going to go ahead and click on Translating Vista Service to Your Resume and Career. That is a recorded webinar, so it can take a little while to watch. So let's say that you kind of get about halfway through and you want to come back to it later. All you have to do is come down to the bottom of that page and click on Add This to My Learning Plan. And the next time you go to your learning plan, you'll see that resource in your favorite content, so you can easily return to it. I also mentioned that your Learning Connections can suggest training for you, and let me show you a little bit about how you would make a learning connection. So you can access that in a couple of ways, through your profile, but also from the Connect and Learn menu. If you roll over that, you'll see a link to Learning Connections if you're logged into the site. This has a search feature. You can either search for people who are working in the same focus area as you may be. You can also search by name. So here I want to look for my supervisor, so I'm going to go ahead and type in her name and click search, and that filters down the results to Celia. To make a connection, all I have to do is click the little plus icon next to her image, and if I were to click send, Celia would get a message saying that I want to connect with her. Once she approves, then we're connected at that point we have a learning connection. And so at that point, if I were to go and find a resource, I could either add it to my learning plan myself, or I could suggest it to a learning connection, as could Celia, and then that would appear in the suggested learning column in the learning plan. Let me also show you another way under Connect and Learn where you can connect with others, and that's through the Vista map. If you are looking for somebody in your location, you can just zoom in to that part of the map. And there are little pins or tags for serving Vistas, for supervisors, and alumni. So if you click on one of the tags, you can click the person's name to find out more, or if that's the person you're looking for, you can just click the plus icon, and again, that's a way to make a learning connection. Okay. And then finally, before I hand it back over to Eric and Andy, let me just kind of show you another feature that you may have come across before, but it's a great way to connect with your fellow Vistas, and that's through the Vista Forums. Again, it's through Connect and Learn and Forums. You just click on Vista Forums, and the vCafe is probably the most popular forum. You can click on that, and if you want to start a new discussion thread, you can click Add New Forum Topic. Or if you want to respond, you can just go into a particular thread and respond with a comment. If you want to get notified of new postings to forums, you can always subscribe to any forum with the subscribe button that appears on that forum when you're logged in. And again, I should mention that you can only post to a forum or subscribe if you are logged in. Okay, and so with that, let me go ahead and turn things back over to Eric and Andy.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate that thorough walkthrough, and we know that some visitors were familiar with the campus, but for those who weren't, it's really nice to see how it's organized and get a lot of detail in terms of what they can access and how it can help them in their professional development. So we greatly appreciate that. So now that you've heard about the 3 features on the Vista campus that will help you stay connected and informed, the Vista campus benefits page, your learning plan, and your connection, we want to make sure that you know what's due on the campus. So here's a few ideas. Visit the benefits page and browse up on the various benefits available to you. Add a resource to your learning plan so you can easily find it later, and connect with other Vistas using Learning Connection, discussion forums, and the Vista map. So now we'd like to hear from you one more time. We know we've covered a lot of information today, and taking into account the 4 steps for action we looked at, what is one next step you can take today after this webinar ends? Maybe it's bookmarking the Vista Member Handbook on your learning plan, perhaps scheduling coffee with a coworker, or maybe it's searching for the next community association meeting. What are your ideas? Please take a moment and share them in the chat now.
All right, so it looks like we've already developed some fans for webinars. Happy to see that as always. What step will you take today?
I see Marcella mentioned starting a journal as my first week is beginning, and really keep track of not only your own personal thoughts, but how you're developing professionally. That's a great idea.
Yep, setting goals, short-term, mid-term, long-term. Those are great. Looking for networking opportunities with the organizations you're working with, professional networks.
Connecting with everyone, lots of connections. Make sure you, for those of you who mentioned earlier that you did not connect with your supervisor, make sure that's also on your list, is to set up a regularly meeting with your supervisor. Setting goals, using the Vista reporting tool. Great.
All right, yeah. So
any others we didn't mention?
Yeah, well, it's a nice mix of either doing stuff online, getting out in the community, or connecting at the organization with coworkers and executive director, board members. So great ideas. You all are right at the spot where we hoped you would be, that you've got some very clear steps that you can take as a result of this webinar. So in addition to all the ones that you just shared here, we've got a few others that we'll mention that some of you touched on, but just in case. First, we want to use this webinar and the Vista Campus to enhance and identify some professional development goals, and then share those with your supervisor. Make sure that your supervisor is aware so that he or she can support you in meeting your professional development goals. And as Eric mentioned, if you don't have a regular meeting scheduled, go ahead and set that up.
Also, identify one resource, an on-demand webinar, a self-paced course, or a helpful video to add to your learning plan on the Vista campus. Be sure to reach out to another campus user through the Learning Connections feature, or by using the Vista map.
And finally, many of you mentioned reaching out to a professional organization in your current field or maybe in a field that interests you, and investigate what a typical career path in that area might look like, as well as finding online trainings, resources, webinars, and other learning opportunities. So we know we've given you a lot to think about, and I'm sure that you have some questions for us. In fact, I've seen some come in already. But before we start the Q&A session, we do want to invite your feedback about this presentation.
So you should now see an evaluation poll on the right side of your screen. And again, if you're using a mobile device, you may not be able to do it, but for anyone using a computer, please take the time to answer the questions in the poll. We really like to be able to improve these webinars and make them useful for you in future Vista. And while you are completing the evaluation, I'll turn it over to Andy to start the Q&A portion of our session.
All right, thanks, Eric. So it is time for your questions, and we have two ways that you can ask a question. One, of course, as you know, is by using the Q&A panel on your screen. But now that the poll is open, the Q&A has collapsed, so you'll see it there just above the poll. Click the little triangle next to the letters Q&A, and it'll reopen, so you can submit your question there. And if you're on the phone, you can ask a question by phone, so I'm going to invite our operator, Ashley, to come back and give us instructions on using the phone. Ashley?
We will now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1. Please unmute your phone and record your name clearly when prompted. Your name is required to introduce your question. To withdraw your request, press *2. One moment, please, for your first question.
All right, and while we're waiting for questions on the phone, we've got a few that have come in already. And we know that most of you are right at the start of your service term, so you probably have questions in a whole range of different areas, some that relate to the topic at hand for this webinar and some that are afield. So we're going to be as broad as we can in taking some of your questions here. So Charmaine had a question about figuring out tax obligations. And she wondered, where can I find out what has or hasn't been taken out of my living allowance so that she'll know what she needs to cover, such as state taxes. So of course, you know, you get paid every 2 weeks, and if you're paid by the VISTA program, you can get your living allowance statement from your account in MyAmeriCorps. You just go to my.americorps.gov, log in, and on the left menu you will see an option for My Living Allowance. You click that, and then you'll be able to look for each pay period that you've been serving, each 2-week period. You can select the period and then download a PDF of your living allowance statement. It will show any withholdings that have been made for federal income taxes. Part of your question, though, was about state taxes. We do not withhold anything for state income tax. So what you're going to want to do is, first of all, find out if your state has an income tax, and if it does, what the rate would be for someone who has the income level that you do. So the way to do that, you can just Google the name of your state, tax agency, or income tax, and look for the official website of your state's Department of Taxation, and either they'll have a calculator, or in many cases it's a tax table, and it'll say if you earn $5,000, a single person would pay this much tax. If you're married filing jointly, you would pay this much. If you're married filing separately, you would pay a different amount. So you need to know your circumstances and what you expect your income level to be for the year, and you can go to the state Department of Taxation website for your state and find out what you're likely to owe at the end of the year. And then you can divide that by 26 pay periods, or however long you're going to be in service during this year, and put aside a little bit of money out of every paycheck so that you'll have it come tax time. So Charmaine, I hope that answered your question there.
Great answer, Andy.
Thanks.
I see. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Eric, next up, Justine has a question. She says, is there anywhere to get personalized business cards with the Vista logo so we can give them out while networking? So do you want to take that one?
Definitely. So the Vista program itself does not issue direct business cards, but what we've seen oftentimes is sometimes your supervisor or your sponsoring agency will either provide you their business card or give you the opportunity to get business cards. What you certainly can do is a couple of things. One, if you go to, and I can post this in the chat, nationalservice.gov/logos is where you or your supervisor can go to get the official Vista or AmeriCorps or corporation logos to put on business cards. And then you can certainly go to other third-party websites that the Vista program does not administer, but there are other websites that allow you to print either free or significantly discounted business cards that you can put the Vista logo and perhaps your organization logo on as well, because it certainly is very, very useful for you to have business cards in terms of networking and professional development opportunities.
All right, thanks for that. Ashley, do we have any callers on the phone with questions?
I am showing no questions from the phone lines.
Okay, great. Well, we'll keep going here. And again, if you're on the phone and have a question, you can press *1. Be sure to unmute your phone, record your name, and Ashley will come on and get you into queue. Let's see, Christine had a question about reimbursement for travel expenses. So if you relocated to serve and qualified for relocation benefits, or if you traveled to a training and you had miscellaneous expenses, those travel payments can take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. This time of year, though, often they come sooner than that. So, so pay attention to when it was that you traveled and submitted that voucher, and then you can all, you know, when you get to the 6-week mark, if you haven't received your payment, you can follow up with the Vista Member Support Unit. They handle all questions related to benefits. So you can contact them either online, by email, or by phone, and I'll give you that phone number. It is 1-800-942-2466. What did I just stopped myself in the middle of the number and I lost track. 1-800-942-2677. Sorry about that. 1-800-942-2677. So that's about travel reimbursement. Yukita has a question about time off. So she's serving at a school. Her Vista project is located at a school. And she says, school's going to be closed during spring break. Am I required to be on assignment during that time? And the answer is yes. You are required to be serving during that time. You don't get an extra week more than any other Vistas would get. But if the school building is closed and locked and you can't actually show up there, then you need to talk with your Vista supervisor about alternate arrangements for where you can be serving during that time. So that might be a perfect opportunity for you to set up site visits and meetings with partner organizations. You could be conducting research. Maybe it's looking at curricula, or going to a library to do research about educational trends or school dropout rates, or whatever it is that you're working on. You could also be serving at actually at a partner organization. So talk with your Vista supervisor about that and set up those arrangements in advance. Okay, so Eric, here's a question for you. Madeline asks, will there be a W-2 form supplied for us when it's time to file our taxes?
There will be. At the end of every calendar year, well, I should actually take a step back and say by January 31st of every year, so assuming if you started your service in 2017, by January 31st of 2018, when you log into your my.americorps.gov account, if you click on My Tax Statements, you will see a link to your W-2 posted in your account automatically, and you can just print it from there and use it in whatever tax software you use. But yes, a W-2 to file your federal taxes will be available in your my.americorps.gov account by January 31st of each year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can use that for state taxes and local taxes if that applies as well. A couple of related questions. Mary Ellen had a question about employment. So she said, I had to complete some financial information forms which asked me for whom I work, and it gave several options, including the federal government. Do I work for the federal government, or do I work for my local project assignment, my local VISTA project? And the answer is neither. You're not an employee as a VISTA member. You're not an employee. You're a program participant. So you're technically not employed. You do earn income. So the money that you receive, the living allowance, is counted as income, whether for tax purposes or in some cases for determining benefits or, say, determining eligibility to rent an apartment. Certainly your living allowance does count there as income. But technically speaking, you're not employed. So hopefully there was a box there that says not employed, and there's maybe an other category where you can say that you are participating in an AmeriCorps program. Now, it seems a little confusing because we just said, oh, you're going to get a W-2 form at the end of the year that lists all of your living allowance payments. So yeah, the W-2 form is the tax reporting form that's used to account for all of your income that you received during the year, but technically you're not an employee. So I hope I cleared that up and rather than making it less clear. Let's see, another related question here. So again, back to taxes, and thanks, Charmaine, for this follow-up. So she said, do I need to address any other fees owed to the government like Medicaid, FICA, Social Security? And the answer is no. Because you're not an employee, those other employment taxes do not apply. So FICA and Social Security withdrawals, you know, your Medicare, those withholdings don't come out of your living allowance payment, and you're not expected to pay them. But also realize that you are not paying in to Social Security for this year. So somewhere way down the road, you'll get a statement from the Social Security Administration saying, oh, for your whole working career, here's all the years that we have a record of you, and here's what you contributed during those years. During your VISTA year, you're not contributing because, technically speaking, you're not employed. So I hope that those questions have been answered.
I still am showing no questions from the phone lines.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ashley. So, Eric, here's a question from Ronnie. It says, if we want to use our professional development funds, I see we need an enrollment coordinator signature. Can you tell me how I find out who that person is? So, Eric, do you know what that's referring to?
That's a great question. My guess is it's referring to, I know there are some organizations, and Ronnie, this might apply to you, there are some organizations where your supervisor might let you know that there are some professional development funds or some money available for additional professional development training. And if that is the case, certainly in your regular meeting with your supervisor, you would need to check with them to find out how they want you to fill out the form and who that signature is. I do not believe there's any official funds available from the VISTA program at this time. So for this kind of thing, so I believe that might relate to a specific organization fund of money. And do you have any additional information on that?
No, I think that's right. I think it's the VISTA sponsoring organization where you're serving. That would be managed through them. So you would just check with your VISTA supervisor at your site to get more details about how that works. All right, so Jacob has a question about health insurance. So he says, if I have my own health insurance, will the health care allowance cover eye exams and glasses? If so, how do I get those reimbursements? Great question, and the answer is yes. If you enroll, and here's one of the conditions, you don't automatically get enrolled in one of the AmeriCorps health benefits. You have to actually enroll in one and submit information. And for the health care allowance, you have to submit your proof of insurance. Once you're enrolled, then you can use that allowance to cover certain expenses related to vision care, like eyeglasses, eye exams, contact lenses, things like that. It's not unlimited, so you're going to want to check on the website. The company is IMG, and it's AmeriCorps vista.imglobal.com. We'll get you that link, and they have instructions for how you submit a claim form. They also have more details about how much of your living allowance, of your health care allowance you can use towards dental expenses or vision coverage. So I think there's a limit of like 1 pair of glasses per service year, 1 set of contact lenses, to cover a year, those kinds of things. So all the details are there on the website. If you have a question that you don't find the answer to there, I really encourage you to call their toll-free number. They have reps who are super well-trained in all of this. They know it inside and out, and they can answer your questions. Let's see. Christine says, why won't the AmeriCorps website let me search for other AmeriCorps positions? Well, because you're currently serving, and we really obviously want you to complete your VISTA service term. But there is a trick. All you have to do is log out of your account in My AmeriCorps, and you can certainly search for those other positions while you're not logged in. And then if you are in a situation where you need to transfer, say your organization is shutting down or the VISTA project is going to end early and you need to move to another project, I mean, it's pretty rare, but sometimes that happens. You can certainly do the search when you're not logged in, find those opportunities, and then work directly with your supervisor in your state office about making that kind of a transfer. But that's why the system is set up that way. All right, so we're getting more questions about insurance, so let's take all of those as a group.
Hey, Andy.
Yeah?
I was just going to say, before we go to insurance, there was a related question to the job, and it relates to Sierra's question. If you're interested in being a VISTA leader after your VISTA position is over, do you have a recommendation as to when you should apply to be a VISTA leader? Is it recommended a few weeks before your service term ends, or do you have any insight as to what the time frame for that is?
Great question. Sorry I didn't see that earlier. So most positions and leader positions included will have listed in there the time frame in which they're looking to fill the position. So you're going to want to pay attention to that, and you're going to want to reach out to them, as soon as you see the position and you're interested. My suggestion would be to reach out to the coordinator, and for every position there's a person listed who is overseeing that VISTA position or leader position. Reach out to that person, send them an email, give them a phone call, and say, hey, here's my situation, and let them know of your interest. You may not be able to submit your application through My AmeriCorps immediately until you get closer to the end of your service term, so you're going to want to make sure that they're aware. But also know that if they've got to fill the position in the next month, then you won't finish for 6 months, then that might put you out of the running. So hopefully that answered that question there. All right, so back to insurance. So Piper has a question, and Eric, I'll let you take this one. If I have insurance in another state under my parents that doesn't cross state lines, can I still have the health care allowance?
That is a great question, a little complicated, but I will take it piece by piece. So, yes, in the sense that if you do currently have insurance and you have for example, you have an insurance card in your name, then yes, you can still have the health care allowance. That part is fairly easy. I think the challenge is if your insurance does not cross state lines, I'm not sure, and you could certainly investigate this, how you would be able to use it if you're in a different state than where your parents are. But you would still have the allowance as long as you have insurance under your name, you have an insurance card, and then you could perhaps contact your health care provider or check with your parents to determine if you're out of state from where they are, how you could potentially make that work. I will simply add that to Andy's point earlier about going to the AmeriCorps.imglobal.com website, that'll explain how the reimbursement works. So if you do have out-of-pocket expenses or questions related to those out-of-pocket expenses, you could submit them or look up more details specifically there that should answer some of your more detailed questions around that question.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Nancy has a simple question, so I'll leave that one for me. She says, how about dental care? And I'm assuming she's asking for the VISTA healthcare allowance. Yes, you can use the healthcare allowance to pay out-of-pocket expenses for dental care. Again, there are some guidelines, routine services, x-rays, fillings, that kind of stuff you can use. Cosmetic things would not be allowed. So again, check the website for the details, or if you have a specific procedure in mind, I would call IMG and ask them directly. But yeah, we're happy to report that now dental services can be covered using the healthcare allowance. And there was, so Ashley had a question about Medicaid. So she says, are you able to enroll in Medicaid and also receive other benefits for eye and dental? So yeah, if you are enrolled in Medicaid or another health coverage plan or health insurance plan, then you can enroll in the AmeriCorps Health Care Allowance that gives you up to $7,150 that you can use towards out-of-pocket expenses like eye and dental. And so you just keep your receipts and submit the claim form to the IMG or the IM Global website, and you'll get reimbursed for those out-of-pocket expenses. Now, the second part of Ashley's question, she says, if I have a son, would he be covered as well? And the answer to that is no. So the benefits that we provide in the VISTA program are just for VISTA members. So the health care allowance or the health benefit plan, those kinds of things only cover you as the VISTA member. So unfortunately, you cannot use your allowance for anyone else. Let's see. So Jennifer had a question. Eric, I think I'm going to take this one, and then I'm going to let you handle some more. So Jennifer has a question about the life insurance option. So some of you may know that that the VISTA program has offered the opportunity for VISTA members when they start service to buy a life insurance program through a company called Reliance Standard. The amount of the benefit was not much, and the cost seemed like it wasn't much, $2.07 out of every living allowance payment. And a lot of people never took advantage of it. A few people did. But now that benefit is going away. As of the end of April, that benefit will no longer be available to VISTAs. And so she says there are more detailed reasons why the insurance is being cut. Well, it was never really a benefit that we provided. It was really more of a convenience that you could just check a box and you would automatically be enrolled with Reliance Standard. Some of the reasons behind it, well, the contract that originally had been established with Reliance Standard had ended, and they expressed that they were not interested in renewing it. when we went to do some research to find other options, we said, gee, for us to set it up really isn't as good a deal as most people could get on their own, because there's so many insurance options available now out there that individuals can access. And so it just didn't seem to make sense for us to continue. Essentially, we were just driving customers to one company, which the federal government really doesn't, shouldn't have a role in doing. So we saw many reasons why we should get out of that life insurance role. So that's kind of the background behind it. But basically, there are better options for most people. So that was the rationale behind that going away. And hopefully it's not a big inconvenience for any of you. And her final question was, is there any chance of other benefits being cut? So this wasn't necessarily a benefit. We didn't pay anything into it. It was all on you. If you were buying it, you were just buying it. It was kind of a convenience thing. And really, it was the reason it went away was because the contract had run out and the company didn't want to renew it. So I would say no to that one. All right, so we're getting close to the end of our time together. We've got a few more questions. There's one that I want to make sure we get, and Eric, now it's at the top of the list. Do you want to take another one or two before we wrap up?
That sounds good. I'll
okay.
let you, I'm sorting through this, so I'll let you ask the ones that are queuing up in order.
Okay. Okay, so the question that a couple of you have raised is, what information can you share about the possibility that AmeriCorps will be cut from the federal budget? Well, we don't have any information that you don't have, except to say there was an early report a few weeks ago in a newspaper that said, according to inside sources, there was a memo that listed AmeriCorps as being cut from the president's budget. And a series of things was going to happen. The Office of Management and Budget was going to contact these programs and blah, blah, blah. Well, none of that happened. And we never saw the memo. Nobody's seen the memo. So we don't know what was behind that news report. It could be that it was a draft document that, was later abandoned. It could be that it was one of many plans that was being considered. So we don't have any specific information, nor have we been asked or requested or informed that anything is going to change about our budget for this year. So we have been given instruction from our leaders here that we are, full operation, full steam ahead. We have funding in place for the coming months, and then expect that the rest of the fiscal year will be funded at a similar level. And it's really the next fiscal year budget that is now coming up for consideration. And the federal budget process is a long one, and there's a lot of back and forth between Congress and the White House, and there's public comment period, and a lot of people weigh in. So I would say more to come on that. Sorry I don't have a more satisfying answer, but hopefully we'll put your mind at ease that nothing is imminent. And for anyone who's been around for a while, it's not the first time that we've seen that kind of proposal put forth. And in fact, 22 years later, AmeriCorps is still here. So hopefully that's reassuring. All right, well, with that, I have brought us to the very end of our time together. So first of all, I want to thank you all for participating today. You've shared some great resources with each other and given us a lot to think about. I want to thank our production team, particularly Scott Weinrobe and N.D. Clark at Education Northwest, as well as Eric Powell, my fellow presenter here.
We also, want to mention that, again, we have many other webinars for VISTA member professional development. As you can see on the screen, please join us next for getting to know the federal hiring process and your non-competitive eligibility benefits. Some of you talked about future jobs after VISTA, this is a great way to look at your benefits. That webinar, if you're available, is tomorrow, March 9th at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Again, also, please keep checking the webinars for VISTA's page on the VISTA campus for announcements of other upcoming learning opportunities. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.